Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. We have winter storm warnings for portions of the deep south as an Arctic air mass is diving in that direction. And we have some ridiculous wind chill continuing and areas of winter storm warnings. And of course, the cold takes hold with what we have as far as wind chill advisories and warnings across the nation as well. And a very active pattern will continue for the deep south. We're going to look at models, we'll compare them, and we'll take a look at what's in store for you coming up next on Hutch's weather. Here, let's get right to the details. What you're looking at here is model guidance. And as a meteorologist, I just have to tell you that this is just guidance. And the farther out in time we get, the lower typically that our confidence is in these models as far as the precise timing or track of any given system. But what you're going to see here is starting out tonight, we have wintry conditions from parts of Louisiana and parts of Arkansas, making its way all the way up into New York, where we have winter storm warnings. We'll show you those in a minute. Let's take a look at the projected track of this as we head into your Tuesday. And you'll see that the ice, as the cold air dives south, will bring a chance of some icy conditions to the deep south. We're talking not far from New Orleans, right on the Gulf Coast, according to this model. Will it actually be ice there? That rain snow line is quite tricky to forecast. So please rely on your local National Weather Service offices there to, kind of delineate the exact area of icing. But there will be rain and there will be ice as we work up into northern parts of Georgia, as well as much of Alabama, from Birmingham, where you will be on the cold side of this system, all the way down into Montgomery, Alabama as well. Now, watch what happens as we set this in motion with a more broad view, and you will see that this wintry weather mixture will continue to track its way to the east and to the north as we go into our Tuesday midday. Look at what happens then as we get up into the northern part of the United States. We're talking Maine, we're talking, Massachusetts, as well as Maryland and most of New York State getting hit with some very cold conditions. And again, the pink, an area of transition where we could have ice once again being a problem. So we do have ice in the deep south. We have cold in the deep south. And the type of cold that we're having is brutal. But I do want to point this out. Again, we'll take a closer look at a couple of different models and compare them. We're going to look at where the snow and rain line is on the radar right now. And we'll take a look at the week ahead, all coming up next. Just a quick note about me. Thanks for joining me on Hutch's Weather. If you're watching, I'd love, if you enjoy the content, to throw it a like and follow my page by subscribing. Hit the bell to know when we have some indications, or you'll get yourself a notification of when I am going live. So a little about myself. I have been a broadcast meteorologist for the better part of 26 years. And for over 20 years, I have taught college level meteorology. So I bring a meteorological approach to what these models show you and show me, and a behind the scenes look at what it is that we use to determine the differences between models and such. So we're going to go over those details right now. And again, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. And hey, good afternoon, Julie. And throw up a hi and let me know where you're watching from as well. I love seeing where everybody's watching from. Okay, this carries us into our midday hour as we go into the day on Tuesday, with snow pushing into the northern Atlantic states, and then a break. Dry, cold air is what's sweeping this off, so expect cold conditions. I'll show you more on that in a second. Not a break for the Pacific Northwest as yet another system makes landfall there. It's just been very wintry in the high country of the state of Washington and Oregon, as well as the mountains of California. And look at this, more snow for the mountains of Idaho as we go through and head into the wee hours of the 17th, or your Wednesday morning. Now, check this out. Another system works its way into the deep south. Now, this is going to bring a chance of some mixed precipitation once again. How far south it goes will depend on the time. And you're looking at 3 in the afternoon for the time on this particular model as we go into the late week. And this system could bring snow to much of Tennessee, wind, as well as the potential for some icing conditions once again. And when we zoom out just a little bit and carry this through in our late week this week, we're going to see it continue to bring a chance of rain. Watch how active the pattern is. I'm just going to sit and let you watch storm system after storm system, once we get to the weekend ahead, make landfall in the Pacific Northwest, and wave after wave go from the Gulf Coast states right up into the New England states as we continue a very active start to our weather here in this 2024 calendar year. A little bit of a break as we go through the 20th on the weekend, and then here comes the next wave off the Pacific Northwest. Look what's going on here off the western shores of the Gulf of Mexico. Another wave making its way in. And as we carry you into next work week, here we go. More very heavy rain potentially. This is getting really far out. So we got to take this with a big old grain of salt. Big, huge grain of salt. But we'll keep our eyes on this as the active pattern looks to persist all the way through the end of the month. Look at this, another Pacific Northwest system punching the mountains, the northern Rockies, western parts of Idaho, northern Idaho, and, well, the areas in and around Glacier National Park and Yellowstone National Park in Montana, getting some regular snow from those systems. And here we go in the Gulf Coast states all the way into the 15th of the month. So we're back to the beginning. So this basically shows a very active pattern from the Gulf of Mexico right up into the Atlantic shores, and the Pacific Northwest gets wave after wave off the Aleutians from this low pressure system that just is parked, and it's sitting there like it's at the drive-in movie theater for the better part of the mid part of the month. Wave after wave hitting the Pacific Northwest with storm system after storm system. Why is this to track over the United States from the Pacific Northwest and waves moving through the Gulf of Mexico? You know what? It's because this Arctic blob of nonsense that has dove south. Let me show you the temperatures that this model has, and you can take a peek at just how far the cold air has sunk south in the United States. Now, where you see these blue temperatures here, just so you have a little point of reference here, this white line here, that is the very cold sub-zero air. And you get up here into the northern plains, boy, it's just been sub-zero for some time. And in fact, with the wind we have gusting over 40 miles per hour in the Dakotas, we have seen wind chill values hitting 70 or better below zero. I have never seen that. I have not seen that here in the lower 48, minus maybe at a mountain peak with a gust of 100 miles per hour, maybe at Mount Washington in the northeast United States. It just doesn't happen. And we've never seen it since they've switched to the newer calculations for calculating wind chill values in the northern plains. So let's set this into motion here. You're looking at the end of the model run here, so we'll let it finish and load up. Now, what I want to point out, and we'll show you the temperatures, how deep and far south the cold air dives. This is a look at the end of the month. We'll let it carry through. And when it starts over, it'll pause, and then it'll start over. I'll get to the beginning. Here we go, the beginning. Look how far south this white, cold blob of Arctic air is. This white line that you see going through Texas, down through Amarillo and the like, let's take a look at some of these values here. That's the freezing line. So that white line is 32 degrees. That is the freezing line. So you can tell how cold it is down in the deep south. Baton Rouge, you're on the freezing line here as we go into our day today. It's just flat out cold. Ice in Birmingham, icy conditions and temperatures. And with the wind that this system is bringing, the wind chills in these parts of the country are downright treacherous out there. So keep that in mind, and we'll be watching for things like watch for pipes to freeze. These are not areas that deal with this cold and the cold outbreak prolonged for as long. And look at where the next white line is. That's the 0 degree line. So it is 0 or below 0 in a large portion of the northern plains and the northern Rockies of the nation heading into our day today, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day's Remembrance Day. As we head through the remainder of the night tonight, the cold air sticks around in the northern plains. And you'll notice that the cold air takes a little bit of a break in the deep south. But look at the white. That's freezing still as we go through the 18th. So as we go through our week here, we're going to continue with freezing air all the way in the deep south, but a little bit of a warm up in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas and all the way down into southern parts of Arizona where Phoenix is, where we see those nice warm orange colors, right? For us up in the northern plains, we're still well below 0 heading into the day. So taking a look at temperatures, Phoenix 60s to near 70s as we look at our afternoon time frame on the 18th, and sub-zero air just parked itself in the northern plains. And as we set this into motion, you see another wave of cold air diving southward. This is that second batch of precipitation heading into the late week that we were showing you snow working its way into parts of North Carolina as well as Tennessee. So keep in mind, here's that cold air, sub-zero air where we see these whites here. This model is saying Nashville, Tennessee is going to need the long johns out there, and you're going to need to just pay attention to this cold weather outbreak along with some chances for snow. So the cold is going to be very persistent across the nation as we go through the next several days. And if we look at a climate model together, we can share you some information on that as well. And I'll do that right now. Let's take a look at the climate model. And again, the farther out in time we go, the less accurate these tend to be as far as precision goes. But they do a very good job of giving us a trend. So how long will the cold take hold and will it stick around? Well, check this nonsense out. You can watch the date up in the timeline here. That's right here. As you take a look at that, it says 12Z. To let you know, in the central time zone, for instance, we have to subtract 6 hours from that 12Z, 1200 hours. That's 6 a.m. on the 15th. So let's set this model into motion, and we see the deep cold sticking around the northern plains of the United States. The white line here is going to be temperatures that are just brutally cold, around 10 degrees. That's well below freezing. On this particular color scale, the freezing line is this blue, changing from green to blue. Where you see the blue, that is the 32-degree line on this particular product. Now, as we go through, you swirl through, you see the pink cold air that's below zero, kind of exiting for just a little while. And this is the 24th of the month. So it looks like the cold air will stick with us even into the deep south until we get to the late part of the month. And then here it comes again to make a February return. Look at that, February 3rd, and it's working its way into the Central Plains states. But some big time moderation in the deep south as we get deeper into the month of February. So what does all this climate forecasting mean? I don't put a lot of weight in the particulars of the timing of any individual one storm once we get beyond a few days. But what I do put some confidence in is the overall trend for the cold to really continue its grip on the nation all the way till the last week of the month of January. Then the deep south warms up. We stay cold in the northern plains. And a very active pattern for weather, very wet weather, and at times even white weather in the southeast United States, from the Gulf Coast through the mid-Atlantic states as we go into the latter part of the month. And then once we start warming things up a bit and you start seeing these oranges and reds return to the south, it's getting back to what we would more typically see this time of the year. Or our neighbors in the southern tier of states and the Central Plains will get a break in. And look at this, even the northern plains getting a nice bit of relief from that Arctic air mass that's going to stick around here in the Dakotas, where I'm at, for some time. Again, I am meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I appreciate you joining Julie from Grand Forks and Oaks, North Dakota. Joanne, thank you so very much for joining. If you liked what you saw here, well, let people know. Hutch is doing weather, looking at the nation here and keeping you apprised of some things that we look at on our old models here to kind of compare systems across the board. I'll be back with updates here